Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
And I'm Ron Sen. And the sports world is a gift that just keeps on giving. This week we'll be able to talk about who's public enemy number one, and there are a lot of choices. The Patriots training camp is opening up, and of course the Red Sox are battling to get to the postseason. But first, I read a great book recently called Gino in Pursuit of Perfection about Gino Auriemma. And most of you probably don't know, Coach Auriemma is not actually named Gino. His real name is Luigi, and he came over from northern Italy at age 7, speaking no English, and he described it as having permanent scars from rolling into a fire of coals that were used to keep the children warm because they had no heat in their house. And from there, he got into basketball and sports like many immigrants do because that was a way to have success. He became an assistant coach in University of Virginia, and the opportunity came for him to apply for a head coaching job in 1985 at the University of Connecticut. At the time, an administrator said to one of the players, "Well, we're going to find the best woman coach we can find." And one of the players said to her, "Why can't we just get the best coach we can find?" And the rest is history, as Auriemma was the first to 800 victories, has 8 NCAA championships, and an Olympic gold medal as a coach. You can't do much more than that with his bio.
Yeah, UConn, for anyone who doesn't know where he coaches at UConn. And they won the national championship last year. Brianna Stewart, her freshman, broke records in the Final Four. And the team he has coming back could be the strongest team he's ever had. Even stronger than that team with Bird and Taurasi and Cash and Jones and Williams. That starting lineup was a great starting lineup. They won it 3 years in a row. But this group here, he has 2 real good guards, in Jefferson and Hartley. And then he has Maketta Lewis, the best shooter in the country, and he's got Dolson coming back, and Tuck has one of the top scorers in the country coming in as a freshman. And then next year he's got 4 of the top freshmen coming in. But they all want to play for him. He's a great coach. And what does a great coach do? He pushes his players. They all want to be pushed to be the best they can be, Ron.
Well, and he says, sometimes I'm a jerk. He says, I can't really help that. I do what I have to make players become the best they can be. For example, he's talking about Diana Taurasi, and he said she could do everything there was to do on a basketball court. She was the best player he's ever had. And yet sometimes she just kind of got lost because it wasn't hard enough for her.
He said she's the only player he's ever let talk back to him. They used to have, she had Italian parents, and he got along real good with her parents, and he had that relationship where even the players knew it. She had that edge. She had to play with that edge.
When he talks about one player, I won't say the player's name, but all the other players called her Precious because he never yelled at her, which was kind of shocking. But one part of coaching that's difficult in college is recruiting. And he talks about the difference between UConn. He says, people come to see UConn. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's no city. There's no mall attached. And the girls go there, and it is what it is. It's basketball in a kind of semi-rural environment. And he said, you go to the University of Tennessee, and you go there, you get to the gym, and they have a full-length poster of you that says, University of Tennessee and your name and so forth. They have a jersey with your name on the back. UConn doesn't even have the names on the back. And they have your picture on the scoreboard, and someone's announcing you as starting for the University of Tennessee. He said, that's not bad. It's all part of the show. But he said, we don't really like to go that direction. He says, I don't promise players they're coming here, they're going to start, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. He says, if you work really hard, you'll have an opportunity to be successful on a team that's going to be great.
Yeah, if they stay away from injuries, you could see them winning like 5 in a row. It's really, what they have, the talent they have now, the young talent, the talent they have coming in, and they all want to play for UConn now. I read an article. I go onto the UConn site every once in a while, and I read an article about the players that are coming in 2014, and they can't wait. They said they went to the Final Four this year, and they watched UConn celebrate, and they said it was the greatest feeling.
And they did this without Elena Del Don, who,
Delaware.
I think #2 pick, who left really before school started, whether it was pressure or homesickness or whatever.
It ended up being her, I think it's her brother or sister.
Sister, I think.
Yeah.
Who had a health problem.
Health problem. She wanted to be with him. I thought it was the pressure. She didn't want. Then she went to Delaware, played volleyball the first year, and then picked up basketball. Then played basketball, and she became one of the best players in the country.
And the book explores the relationships that exist within the team between the coach and the assistant coaches, and he talks about some of his teams where, early on they had great success with Jamel Elliott and Jen Rosati in the backcourt, and how Rosati's become an outstanding coach at Hartford. He talks about how a sophomore, when they won the first national championship in 1995, he said she never said anything. She never was in a big pressure situation, seemingly, and then she hit 2 free throws near the end of the game to help them clinch the victory, and that was Carla Berube, who's the head coach at Tufts, who I had the good fortune to talk a little bit with about the Twins when they were thinking about that pathway. So it's really remarkable the challenges that coaches go through because of the high pressure environment they have, and people have such high expectations. Obviously at Tennessee, Pat Summitt's developed Alzheimer's disease, and is kind of being pushed aside at this point.
Yeah, she's out. They have a new coach. She went last year. They got a new coach, but Tennessee, last 4 years they haven't been one of the top teams. They've been pretty good, but not one of the top teams. It's been Baylor, Notre Dame, UConn, and Stanford, and now it's really turning to UConn,
right,
big time.
And every level of coaching, there's politics to face. Probably the definitive book on coaching and politics is a book called The Politics of Coaching by Carl Pearson. It was written a few years back, and Carl is out in Minnesota. He's coached 3 sports over 40 seasons, and I've corresponded a lot with Carl via LinkedIn. And he talks about a situation where they had several 8th graders who were really solid players who asked if they could work out part-time during the season with the team, not be on the team. And basically, after they were doing this for a while, he got complaints not directly from parents, but indirectly from the assistant coach that parents went to. They said, they don't want these 8th graders working out with the older players. And he said it was apparent why. He said, needless to say, if you're an 8th grader that even considers working out with the varsity, you must be pretty good. And a lot of the varsity players and parents were threatened by that situation. And I think that occurs in many different communities, but especially where there's an intense interest in basketball and where there's been some historical success. And to an extent, we even see that now. We have a separate program where we work out our 8th graders, our rising freshmen, and so far they haven't been invited to participate in any varsity events. And they're, number one, they are well schooled in basketball. Number 2, they have size. Number 3, they have athleticism. And number 4, they have a lot of desire to be successful. So it's going to be a tough decision for any coach coming in at the varsity level or junior varsity level to keep those kids down when they have all the athleticism, skill, and heart to be successful.
Yeah, what do you do? I mean, when you talk about the Melrose team, and you have 3 seniors coming back, they're on the team. You have 4 juniors and 1 sophomore. I believe that's where it's 7. They have 8 players coming back, I think. 7 or 8. And then you have a number of players that are going to be juniors and a number of players that are going to be sophomores. A number of players that are on the freshman team and on the JV team. So what do you do now when you have 4 or 5 openings on the varsity?
Well, you have 25 to 30 legitimate candidates, people who have played basketball for a long time, parents who've invested a lot of time, energy, love, money, heartache into the sport, and most of those parents are going to be disappointed because there's a numbers game where you're trying to put 25 or 28 into 4 or 5.
Yeah, and if they go the way some parents and some coaches, they want to take the older girls and give them a chance to play varsity or whatever, and then you're making a huge mistake. You're making a huge mistake if you start doing that, putting players on the varsity that shouldn't be on the varsity, because now you get stuck with those players through their varsity season. Once they make the varsity, they're on the varsity. So now what happens there is the better players that are better and younger, they get stuck on the freshman which could happen this year, players that have played against better talent during their 8th grade season than they're going to see as freshmen, and JVs
Well,
are going to be stuck on the freshman and JV teams.
last year the freshmen scrimmaged the junior varsity, and my understanding is they defeated them. And our 8th graders played against the freshmen and beat them by 25. So, you can make an extension that, if nothing else, it's either the brilliance of the coaching, which we'd like to say, of course, was the big answer, or the fact that we had some athletic, talented kids who played hard and paid attention and are determined to be successful. And somewhere along the line, you end up being unfair to somebody, and you have to decide, who's going to make that decision, and are you making that decision on a rational basis, or are you making a political decision?
Well, this is what it comes down to. I mean, I was asked that at the interview when I applied for the high school job. I was asked, what do I do? How am I going to handle the cuts? And I says, well, it's kind of different with a new coach because you already have 7 players on the team, or 7 or 8 players on the team, and now you only can pick 4 or 5 players. And you have JV players, you have freshman players, and then you have the incoming freshman players. And my feeling is the best players make the varsity. It's that simple. I said if it's very close, then the older girls make it. If you have a girl's going to be a junior and a girl's going to be a freshman and it's very close, that's a tough pick, but I would probably pick the girl's going to be a junior to make the team. But, if it was real close. But if that freshman player was better than that junior gets cut. Even though she's been in the program, what are you going to do with that freshman player? Have her go play with the freshman after she's been playing his talent way better than the freshman for the last 2 years and dominating against talent? It's going to be a useless season for those freshmen. And the way I look at it this year, they better watch out because I know parents or the older girls, I know some of them have complained already about it. Well, and they don't want to. They're worried that some of these freshmen, well, if they're better, they should make it.
Well, it's always understandable that every parent or set of parents is going to advocate for their child. And that would be the case whether it's basketball or theater or music or getting into AP calculus, whatever the case may be. And we understand that. But there's probably more spots in AP calculus than there are in AP basketball.
But the problem you have, I've been coaching basketball for a number of years, and I think I know basketball as well as anybody, and I know talent as well as anybody. And the problem that the new coach is going to have is that this incoming freshman team would beat the varsity. That's the problem she's going to have. My feeling is you put the varsity up against these 8th graders who are going into the 9th grade, this 9th grade team is more talented than the rest of the teams. But not saying every player. There's players like Kat and Victoria who would dominate up there against Middlesex League teams right now. And there are two or three other players that would be able to play on most Middlesex League teams right now. And what's going to happen? Are they going to get stuck behind because of the situation of so many players and parents complaining, or are they going to let the best players play like they should? Right now, like we talked about, the incoming freshmen, they haven't been given an opportunity to practice with the varsity. It's only the high school players from last year. Well, they're considered freshmen now. Luckily we have them in a varsity league and they're doing really well.
Well, and the question is, if you're the new coach, are you going to go with the pre-existing system that's in place, or you're going to bring in your own system, which is a whole separate issue. But
it'd be good if the athletic director and the principal knew something about the whole system too, what's going on, because I don't know if they even have an idea of what's going on.
Well, I always think that we all have watched a lot of baseball. You and I played a lot of baseball. I played in college and in the intercity league, so I know baseball. But just because I watch baseball doesn't mean I'm an expert on baseball. And a lot of people, I had a patient in the other day, and she was bringing me in a knitted Boston Strong hat, and I said, "Wow, that's really cool." And I said, "You know what I know about knitting? Nothing, zero. I can't. I know that you use yarn and knitting needles to do that. Now, just because I'm an educated person doesn't mean I know anything about knitting. Whereas she may know everything in the world there is to know about knitting. So I have to respect the fact that she's an expert on knitting, and she and her friends have sent thousands of knitted hats and slippers to Afghanistan and Iraq to the troops. So they've really done it. They haven't talked about it. They've actually done it.
Well, I just hope the senior class has a great year. I mean, I really like the girls up there. I like Shannon. I mean, we coached her as a freshman. Maeve, she's a real good kid. She works hard. And you know what we feel about Jill McGinnis. Jill McGinnis, one of the best athletes in the high school. Great kid. I mean, I don't know. To me, she should be the captain of the team. I mean, she's that committed, and she's a hard-nosed player. We wanted her starting as a sophomore. Well, because we coached them during the summer, and we saw the talent. She's a Woburn, the Woburn players from a few years ago. She's that type of player, and it's a shame that the coaching staff didn't realize it, and that's what happens. But I'm hoping this year is a great year.
Oh,
for
it was at
her.
the All-Star game several years back in Stoneham when Hannah was playing with Colleen and some of her teammates, and a random person came out to me in the stands. I don't even know who the person is, and said, "You must feel pretty good about this." And I said, "Well, yeah, I enjoy the basketball." And they said, "No, I understand that the players have to almost play for you and Ralph to be successful in high school in Melrose." And I said, "Well, I don't know if it's quite that simple, but we enjoy basketball and we enjoy coaching, and we're glad to see the kids do well."
The one thing, this could be our last year coaching, probably is. And the one thing that I'm happy about is that 95% of the girls and their parents have said that middle school basketball has been the best basketball of their. I mean, they've loved playing middle school basketball more than high school basketball. And you get them coming all the time. The problem I had is that the two most important parents, for some reason, didn't come forward when they should have came forward. And we know what happened with the coaching situation, but that's good to see. I've had a ton of parents, even at Sidney Doherty's graduation party, I had parents and players. And Rachel Johnson came up to me and says, "I never would have quit if you were coaching."
Right. For those who don't know, former Lady Raider Lindsay Shanahan was appointed to be the new basketball coach at Melrose. She played from 1999 to 2003 on very successful teams back when Melrose was in their 10 consecutive years of Middlesex League dominance. And her job is to restore Melrose to what it was in however fashion she sees fit. And certainly, we're looking forward to see how this goes going forward. And we love to see our kids especially be successful.
Yeah, I like Lindsay. All right, when I was coaching summer basketball, and I coached her a couple of years up in Lawrence, and when Shannon Kerwin was playing AAU a lot, and there was a rivalry between her and Shannon. Because they were two of the top players coming up from 5th grade up. I remember them, and and so Shannon had some tough times. Her dad passed away, and that he was her number one supporter, and you could see her basketball tail off just a little after that, but she kept playing. She had that big shot in the garden. But I enjoyed coaching her in the summertime, and again, Shannon was away, and Owie was away, and not Shea Petty, but there's the other Petty from Melrose. They were all playing AAU, and Shannon was a point guard. Her and Basteri. Andrea Basteri was the center. Foley played. Picaro. I think Aaron Hutt played, and we did real good. We won 5 games in a row up there against teams like Central, and she did real good. And and again, it was really between her and Shannon. There was definitely something going on there.
It's a tough job when you come in and you're trying to take a team that's in rebuilding mode. I just finished a book recently by a fellow named Steve Biddison called Coaching with the Heart. He was kind of a turnaround specialist, very experienced coach who had a strong personality and brought a variety of teams from really struggling situations to success. And it takes a special kind of person to do that. It's said about coaching, there's 3 phases. There's blind enthusiasm, there's complex chaos, and then mature simplicity. And to be a great basketball coach, mature simplicity, the term coined by Don Meyer, who's I think the winningest basketball coach in Division II, is really where it's at, where you have experience in working with players and developing players in game situations, knowing all the drills, knowing all the different types of offenses and defenses that you're going to come up against. And it's a real tough situation to come in as a young coach and try to turn things around.
Yeah, it is going to be tough, and it's a big job. It's probably the most important job up there, the girls' basketball team.
Well, we like to think that, that we've had a small part in making it successful over the years. Well, we'll be right back.
On and off the court, Visionary Basketball Group delivers programs that empower players with skills for athletic and personal success. Our players undergo learning experiences that position them for positive lifelong achievement on and off the court.
Hello, my name is Anthony Taylor, founder of Visionary Basketball Group, VBG. It's a year-round basketball player development organization ranging from preschool to college and professional level, girls and boys. We cater to all skill levels, starting from beginner, intermediate, and advanced. One of the biggest things that we have is our coaching staff, who do a phenomenal job at mentoring the players on a regular basis with the training, the teaching, and the knowledge. We operate 7 days a week. We offer over 30 sessions, and we're considered one of the top comprehensive basketball player development organizations in New England. And another key aspect that we do is that we have kids coming from all different areas, urban, suburban communities, uniting as one. And that's what makes VBG a phenomenal organization that helps kids gain confidence, leadership, discipline, self-esteem. And if you have a chance, come down and see what we do at Visionary Basketball Group.
VBG player athletes are rising stars in elementary, middle school, high school, and college basketball. We apply the same approach to training with every participant at VBG and produce players who are prepared for maximum performance. Visionary Basketball not only provides programs for individuals, we can also come to your town, school, or any institution to customize a structured program for your team or basketball organization. For more information, please log on to our website, www.visionarybasketball.com, or drop into our Athletic Performance Center at 152 Tremont Street, Melrose, Mass. VBG, complete your vision.
I remember a story about an old man who said, as a young man, I wanted to change the world. And as a middle-aged man, I wanted to change my friends and family. And as an old man, I only want to change myself. Now, Ryan Braun may be a young man, but he may wish he could really change himself. He tested positive after his MVP season in the National League in 2011 and basically got off on a technicality as somehow he made an argument that magically testosterone got into his urine sample and that it had nothing to do with his overwhelming success as a player. Well, this week, and after that, he made the most vehement denial in the history of sports, perhaps even beyond Lance Armstrong, that he would never do such a thing, that it was cruel that the media was abusing him because of accusing him of doing such a thing, and he tried to ruin the life of the person who was doing the testing during the process. Well, this week, Ryan Braun, also known as Lion Ryan, is now awarded a 65-game suspension, which he voluntarily accepted, probably in lieu of something more. And it's going to cost him about $3.2 million, but he has $110 million more coming from the Brewers. And you didn't hear one word of support from any major league player.
Right, and I guess if you get caught 3 times, although this is only the first because you won the last time, 3 times it's a lifetime ban, right? Because they're talking about A-Rod. You know, A-Rod, but he's going to come to an agreement. Will be 100-something days games, I believe. But you look at them. You look at Clemens. You look at Hernandez. What are these people? I mean, they got something going on in their head. I mean, you'd have to talk to a psychiatrist about everything that's going on because it's unbelievable.
Well, we know that players who weren't even specifically testing positive or rumored to be positive can't get into the Hall of Fame anymore. A guy like Jeff Bagwell. Now, Jeff Bagwell was traded from the Red Sox to the Houston Astros for the famous Larry Anderson. Now, Bagwell hit 4 home runs in Double-A. And then he had a stellar major league career. He got really jacked up and hit over 400 home runs. And yet, it's unlikely he's ever getting into the Hall of Fame because it's just he played in an era where guys who did that usually were juicing.
Yeah, none of them will get in. We know about Sosa and McGuire and Bonds. I mean, those three were ridiculous. I mean, their whole body changed. But, you know, when you look at it, though, Ron, you say, is it worth $50 million? Yeah. I mean, look at it that way.
Well, right. If, you know,
I mean, I would take it.
No, let's say you are a laborer working for a city, and you're doing a great job. You're earning whatever you're earning. Show up at work on time. You don't give anybody any problems. And somebody says, well, if you take a shot a week for 6 weeks for a couple different cycles of whatever growth hormone, then we're going to pay you 10 times what you normally make, and the risk to you, health-wise, is very low.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't take it, as the saying goes, your mother would slap you upside the head and say, "What's the matter with you?"
Well, you talk about 10 times. It could be way more than 10 times. I mean, look at these players. Some of these players. I mean, if they're battling, if you're there, and you have like, say you're in the minors, and you're considered the 100th best player in the minors. But if someone comes up to you, an agent, and says, "Listen, if you take the steroids, you know, you can move right up to the top 10. You may move up to the top 10." I mean, you're looking at that.
Right.
I mean, that's the only time I would ever do something.
Well, and people will say, well, why is it such a big deal in baseball? I think it's because numbers matter in baseball. Ted Williams hit 344. Ty Cobb hit 367. Babe Ruth had 714 home runs. You know, these numbers mean something to us. How many touchdown passes does Tom Brady have lifetime? I don't know. How many touchdowns does Dan Marino have, the career touchdown leader? I don't know. The numbers just don't mean the same, whereas in baseball, numbers seem to mean something to us.
Oh, yeah, right. I mean, your batting average, your home runs, runs scored, your on-base percentage is huge. I mean,
and basically what steroids do is they produce corrupt numbers. So hitting 500 home runs used to mean something. A-Rod has over 600, but who believes him anymore?
yeah, but you really, as a player, when you're looking at that situation, you're saying to yourself, look what Barry Bonds did, look what Clemens did, look what Sosa did, look what McGuire did, look at the monies they made, look at A-Rod, $32 million a year. It's unbelievable what these players are making because they're on it. I mean, you got someone like Pedroia. Pedroia, he's hitting maybe just around 10 home runs a season. And if he was ever on it, he'd be hitting 25 home runs a season. But, you know, you got a guy like Pedroia, he's well respected. These other guys aren't respected. But who knows, Ron? Even the reporters, they don't know what's going on.
Well, I was reading recently the former wife of Chris Benson, Anna Benson, was arrested on, I think, a weapons charge. Now, Chris Benson was a #1 draft choice bonus baby and had a very mediocre professional baseball career. For his career, I didn't know his statistics, so I looked him up. He was 70 and 75. And over about 8 seasons, as a less than average professional baseball pitcher, he made $39 million. Now, I'm not saying he ever took any steroids, growth hormone, Alarest, but that's a lot of money. I mean, I don't care who you are, $39 million in 8 years is a lot of money. And so we value professional athletes for what they do, and they get compensated really well for doing it. But how many of them are getting compensated at high levels in some manipulation of the truth?
But you know the thing too, Ron, people don't realize, well, people do realize, I don't know if baseball realizes it, people don't appreciate the game of baseball anymore. They don't appreciate the numbers these people are getting. It's really, you look at Davis for Baltimore, what's the first thing people think about? Is he on steroids? You look at Jones, players like that. I mean, it's a shame in a way.
Well, it's true in that everyone is tarred with the same brush. So that if you all of a sudden become Jose Bautista and hit 50-something home runs, then you had to be cheating because you didn't do it before.
Right, and you look at Ortiz. I mean, are people just stupid? I mean, are they ignorant to the fact that 2-3 years ago he couldn't get around on the fastball? He was behind the fastball, couldn't hit. They were thinking about cutting him, and they weren't going to sign him the next season. They were actually thinking about cutting him, and then look at him now in the last 2 or 3 years. What are they? The people that say he's not on anything, I mean, they're crazy. The guy's on something. He's on something. A lot of them are. I mean, nowadays you can hide it. you know, in regard to the test, you just about know when the tests are coming. They say they test them more nowadays, but I hear that you can't tell now, because you know better than me, but I mean, they're hiding it now. And again, someone like Ortiz, you know he's on something.
Well, and while we focus on baseball, you know, certainly if you look at the physiques of players in football and basketball, you definitely wonder about some of these guys. And we're not naming names and saying this guy was using, this guy was not using, but it just, you see some phenomenal athletic development, and you just wonder, can this all come about in a natural way?
Right. I mean, you see it starting in high school in football. You know, there are kids taken in high school. I know there is, and that's a shame. I mean, in high school, I mean, they're ruining themselves for other sports.
Well, a few years ago, there was a survey, I think, in Georgia, and they asked high school players anonymously how many people were using something as a performance enhancer, and it was 6%. Now, you might say, well, that's not very high, you know, but it's more than acceptable, and maybe a certain number of players wouldn't even acknowledge that they were.
You know, probably like, you know, 1 out of 10 in that area. Maybe, I mean, there's 40 kids in a team. Probably out of the 40 kids, a lot of these programs, there's 4. I mean, if you have coaches that tell them that you better not be, but they don't test in high school, I don't believe. I mean, they have a physical before, but they don't test.
No. Well, and you know, I'm not advocating for testing high school athletes. Absolutely, I think that's ridiculous. In some fashion, at some point in your life, you have to develop a code and honor system where the truth means something to you. And obviously, for a lot of athletes, that's not important. I was reading an article recently about Michigan coach Steve Beeline. And now Michigan went to the Final 2 this year in basketball. And he has a couple of players, including McGarry, who played for an AAU coach. And the AAU coach demanded a meeting with Beeline to guarantee the AAU coach that these players were going to get every opportunity to be successful while staying at Michigan. You say, like, McGarry's a star freshman player who's coming back to the team. I think also Glenn Robinson Jr. And the guy needs more assurance than that. Like, what do you want? Do you want me to say that they're each going to get 20 shots a game, that they're going to be on the floor for 30 minutes a game? What's the college coach's obligation to an AAU coach to do anything?
I know. Well, how does Calipari keep getting these players? That's what I want to know. Because he's not a real good coach.
Well, I think that he obviously has made peace with the fact that you go to Kentucky to play basketball, that you're not a student athlete. Now, which is not to say Kentucky did okay, because they must be be developing some other kids, because other kids are graduating along the way. So I don't know if they have, you know, Phi Beta Kappa kids that don't know how to roll a basketball, but they're on the team, because they have a reasonable graduation rate overall.
But he must be telling the parents, even when he was with Memphis, he must have been telling the parents that, listen, you want to come to my program. We play against real good teams. We're not in a real tough conference, but we have a good schedule, out-of-conference schedule. It's pretty good. It's getting better, but especially when Memphis. I mean, it's not like the ACC banging heads, and the ACC is not as strong as it was back when Memphis was strong. But he's got to be telling these parents, I'm going to let your son play, and you're going to go out and play. I'm not going to hold him back. We're not going to play a slow-down offense. We're going to do running gun offense. It's perfect for your child to get his stats. We're going to have a successful team, and he'll be a top 10 player. I can just about guarantee you.
I just finished reading Jerry Tarkanian's book, Run and Rebel. He talks about the pressure on college coaches to be successful. And he was winning a lot at Long Beach State and UNLV, such that he was offered the job to be the Laker coach at a couple $100,000 a year, which was a lot of money back at the time. So he said, tentatively, I'm going to take the job. So he goes back to Las Vegas, and he goes to talk to his agent. The agent is in the trunk of a Rolls Royce, hands bound behind his back with 2 bullet holes in his head. So he said, I don't think I'm taking this job based on the non-conversation that I just had with my agent. He said, I never look for another job again. Now, that was Tarkanian's way of saying somebody wanted him to stay there because big money was coming into Vegas to go to support the team, to go to the games, to bet on games. And he tells another story where he gets a note from Frank Sinatra's secretary. Now, Sinatra is a big booster. He never goes to a game, but he has dinner with Tarkanian and so forth. And the athletic director decides to get rid of comp passes for people. And Sinatra's bodyguard's son goes to all the games. So he gets a letter from the secretary that says, Mr. Sinatra has every confidence in the world in you. He knows that you will do the right thing, and he thanks you in advance for doing the right thing. So Tarkanian goes to the president of the university and says, I think it's really important that we do the right thing. And the kid got his passes back, and nobody got shot.
I'll tell you though, his teams, when they call, it was unbelievable watching his teams. They just played that up. That's where you'd want to send your son if you wanted him to go to the pros.
Well, Bobby
Up-tempo.
Knight writes the forward, and he says about Tarkanian's teams, he said, they played defense like men possessed. They always hit the boards really hard on both ends, and they had incredible transition from offense to defense and defense to offense. He said they're a pleasure to watch and a pleasant pleasure to watch coaching. Now, for Tarkanian, he recruited out of junior colleges, and he went to the worst neighborhoods in the New York, Detroit especially, and Los Angeles to find players that nobody else would take a chance on. And some of these kids were not, didn't have a big academic background, but he was willing to take chances on them. And he said, and in fact, Greg Anthony in the foreword to the book wrote that he gave players two things, hope and opportunity. And that's all these players needed to have. He said, we were playing with our freshmen when freshmen weren't eligible against USC. Now, USC had the top player from Florida, from California, from Michigan, etc. And they came in with the idea they were going to wipe us out because they had all these star players. And Tarkanian's got his freshmen. He said, we destroyed them, 70-37. He said, and it could have been worse.
What does that philosophy remind you of? Reminds me of our philosophy in regard to basketball. That's what we were hoping with our high school team. If they play that way, become a great defensive team. Number one, get in the best condition of your life when you come out for this team. We're going to play an up-tempo game, tremendous defense, on-the-ball pressure, deny the ball down low, rebound, and get into transition the right way. Understand, because, Ron, I've been saying it for years, 99% of these high school teams don't know what transition's all about. They think it's running up and down the court. They don't understand what fast break basketball is. They don't know what it means to understand how to anticipate. And that's what you want with a high school team. When you can work 5-6 days a week with a high school team, and that's what I hope Melrose does with all the talent they have in that system.
Well, we talked about the Winnicott coach recently, Ed Beatty, and when we saw his Winnicott teams play against Melrose, they were the best spaced transition team I've ever seen in high school or college. They were just so well drilled, and he made it clear we can practice 12 months a year. There's no limitation on us being with the team. That's
what we've been teaching, our girls. The transition game, great defense, rebound, go into transition, anticipate a steal, anticipate the rebound, get out there for the outlet pass, break on the other end, don't wait for the pass to come out.
Well, the problem is a lot of coaches don't like to play transition because you're giving more control to the players, more freedom to the players, and coach may have the attitude, look, I know a lot more than the players do. I can make a lot better decisions than they can. I'm not going to give them that freedom.
Well, you look at it. Why were the last 3 years a disappointment for the Melrose girls?
Oh, they were raised. They cut their teeth on running.
And the girls did not enjoy playing that system. So it's up to the coach to realize that. You want to communicate with your players. Any coach that doesn't communicate with his players and talk to his players about what they see, they're not a good coach. And any coach who doesn't rely on their captain to be part of the coaching staff also, and to get feedback from the players if anybody's having problems, like I say all the time, we pick it up right away if one of our girls is disappointed or whatever, if they may not be getting enough playing time, which not many of them ever complained about. But a good coach would pick that up. But you want to get the feel of the team, and you don't want to be stubborn. I mean, to be stubborn and constantly run plays because you want to bust them on the players and the parents, and that's what some coaches like doing, and they don't care about this and that, and then you have an athletic director who can't read that.
Well, we just
You
get
know,
back to
and
Michigan.
Then it's 3 terrible years in a row.
How are you going to win a national championship when your 2 best players are demanding a certain amount of touches or a certain amount of shots, and they're using their AAU coach to try to get that? I mean,
And then the coaches are worried that the AAU coach may not let their players go play with them.
right, they'll blackball them. You know, Gary Williams, the University of Maryland coach in the past, said, I'm never going to win a national championship because I won't sell my soul to some AAU coach and talk to him so that, you know, and give him money so that he'll send his kid to my school.
But you know what makes me really laugh? It really makes me laugh about the AAU. You know, my daughter or my son, you know, boy, that AAU program's really good. Well, how do these kids make to be picked for AAU? Because they're talented. Where do they work in their game? Do they work in a game in middle school or grammar school? They worked in their game somewhere, right? Now, all of a sudden, they're getting older and more mature. Now they're starting to become good basketball players. It's all AAU. And you're paying thousands of dollars for AAU. And I've seen a lot of kids and a lot of girls. We haven't coached many girls that have played AAU, but we've coached some. I've seen some girls that play AAU, and I don't see a huge improvement, and I see a lot of money going out to these AAU programs. That's what I see. I mean, listen, AAU is all about winning and letting you, I mean, I hear, oh, my daughter came home sweating big time playing AAU. She came home sweating. Well, what does she do when she plays with other teams? Do they sweat? You know, but are they really teaching them how to shoot? I haven't seen many players that I have coached that have played AAU come back with a much better shot and this or that or understanding of the game.
Well, that's probably a discussion for another time. And we don't have an AAU team that we're selling either. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Paul Rabel from the Boston Cannons, and you're watching Let's Talk Sports.
Welcome back. It's football season already. Doesn't feel like football season, but Bill Belichick was back today, shocked and disappointed that one of his players could be a murderer.
Was he interviewed today?
Yeah,
What did he say?
He basically said, I'm shocked and disappointed that it turned out this way, and that we do an exhaustive process to evaluate our players and their character and their values, and we never saw this coming, pretty much.
Did they ask him about the people he hung around with and the gangs he was part of?
You know, I think he gave his introductory statement, and he said, got back to his usual, that's as much as I'm going to have to say about it, and we'll move on and talk about the team as we have it.
So no one said you did an investigation on this guy and you didn't come up with anything?
I don't know.
But I mean, every other team did, but you didn't? Did no one said that to him?
You know,
They're all afraid of him anyway, because, well, he won't answer their questions. But every other team, I mean, I'm not blaming him for the murders. I mean, but for him to say that he did an intensive investigation, I mean, I mean, every other team did, and no one picked them.
Well, and you're seeing now other coaches like Urban Meyer, who had Hernandez. He's at Ohio State now, and they just suspended a running back. And other coaches are getting gun shy now because they know, well, it's pretty simple. If you're the coach at Illinois, you're going to say, look, the guy at Ohio State was Hernandez coach at Florida. Do you want your son to go play for him? You got to be kidding me. He doesn't discipline his players. They just run around like mad dogs. Now, I'm not saying that they do, but if I'm the coach at Illinois or, you know, Wisconsin, I'm going to use that.
He had to be bipolar, though, right? I mean, that's the only way. I mean, everybody says how great he was at times, and then to do stuff like this and then kill those other 2 people probably.
Well, you have people who have personality disorders, antisocial personality disorders, or narcissistic personalities, where they just don't care about other people. They do what they do in their own interest, and everybody else, so much for them.
Do you feel bad at all for people like him? Really, I mean, this is a tough subject here. Do you feel bad that he has that disorder? I mean, he has to have a disorder to do something like that.
Well, right. Are there people who are just innately evil? You know, I know that some people are going to say, oh, he was a good kid until his father died in high school, and then he hung out with the wrong people. Well, you know, our principle is we say there are 3 things that you control, and I use the acronym ACE. You control your attitude, you control your choices, and you control your effort. That's all you can do day to day.
What if he can't? So people like him can't. I mean, that's what happens.
Right. So
That's what we have psychiatrists for, I believe.
exactly. Now, is there a medicine that will turn a potential serial killer into a functional member of society? If there is, I want to hold the patent to it.
No, like, I mean, you look at these things that different people do. I mean, some people do bad things. They don't do murders. They do other things. I mean, like when people get on Braun for what he did. I mean, that's
Well,
I mean, he's just in that area there. I mean, he's not. I mean, I'm not trying to compare him.
No, but I mean,
he's different than some other people.
I mean, I'll see people who have personality issues from time to time. You see people who have alcohol, drug, physical abuse, on and on and on, day after day after day. You see the same repeat offenders from time to time. You have to say, is there nobody that can help this guy? Or you say, we've done what we can do. At this point, you're at the mercy of the legal system.
Oh, the judges bang their heads. We had it today. We had a girl in today, right? Not much of in her history, but she owed $750 in restitution for malicious destruction. She was given so many chances to pay the restitution back. She never did. I mean, she flipped out one day and broke a window or whatever in a car. So finally, probation was asking, she was on a suspended sentence. They wanted her violated. The judge violated her. Then when she went downstairs, the girl's crying. Judge calls her back up, says, I'm going to give you one more chance. It's that. I mean, those decisions.
It's the story of the guy who kills his parents and then he throws himself on the mercy of the court saying, but I'm an orphan. And
but I knew the
I
judge
don't
was going
know.
to do that today. I mean, and there's people that are on drugs, and then you give them 1 or 2 chances to go to like the SOAP program, different programs, and then finally the judge has to send them away, and they haven't done anything violent, but take drugs.
Well, we're not a political show, but you look at a candidate running for mayor in a major city of New York, and you just say like, how? It's like it's a soap opera. It's a joke. It's a cartoon of a person running for a major office, and whatever. I guess it just, more than anything else, as a society, we are very forgiving. If somebody says, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, for the most part, we'll say, yeah, I guess you are sorry. And
Well, we go as far as the president's apologizing.
well, I mean, the Yankees had a guy, among other guys, Steve Howe, and he kept testing positive for drugs, but nothing really happened. He got 8 times, he got 8 chances, because as long as you're left-handed and can throw hard, you're going to keep getting a chance. When you can't throw hard or over the plate, your chances expire.
Right. But it's unbelievable. But you know what I was thinking about the other day, driving through Melrose? I mean, the facilities in Melrose now, are they nice? I mean, I went out one morning, I had to go up to Haverhill at 4 in the morning, and they're watering down the fields. The baseball field looks beautiful. The football field looks beautiful. As a matter of fact, I took my granddaughter. She was running on the field. I mean, it was nice. I mean, the whole scene one morning about 7 o'clock.
Right. Well, I mean, if you say, why would a young family want to move to Melrose? You have good schools. You have stable government. You have excellent facilities. It's just a nice community to live in, which is why we're here. But, which is not to say that we don't always want it to be the best it can be, and especially related to sports, because that's what we're interested in. If the symphony orchestra is on TV for Melrose, I might watch it, but I'm not watching it for an hour because I lack that cultural sensitivity to that type of thing. Now, the Red Sox, however, did not lack sensitivity as they signed Dustin Pedroia to an 8-year, $110 million extension. So Pedroia is going to be playing here till his kid is in middle school at least.
Well, yeah, he's the leader. He's the face of the team now. I mean, you want someone like him. Anybody who comes in, even these players now say the same thing. They want to play as hard as he plays. They see it every game. They see how he prepares himself before the games, how he gets into the games. And what that Red Sox want is when they bring up those younger players, they want those players to see someone like him, and
Well, I remember Ortiz was saying, I wanted to get there before Pedroia, so I came in, for a night game at like 2 o'clock, and he's there. And I came in at 1 o'clock, and he's there. I came in at noon, and he's there. He said, after that, he said, I'm not coming. I don't want to know what time he gets here, because Pedroia is really into it. He does an ad where he talks about baseball is my life, and how can you not root for a guy who plays so hard? Every single ground ball, if he hits a one-hopper back to the pitcher, he busts it down to first, he's going to be out, but he's playing the game the right way every play,
yeah.
every day.
I mean, I'm a Yankee fan, and Jeter's my favorite player, but Pedroia's my second favorite player. Every time I have to watch him get up. I still think he stands too far away from the plate. He's got to get closer. He'd be a lot better hitter if he got closer, so he can turn on those pitches instead of reaching for them and hitting them to the right. He can drill them off the wall or over the fence, and he hits a lot of long flies to center field. He doesn't have that power. If he can't use that power in here and he's reaching, he loses that power, and there are a lot of long flies.
And I know that everybody's gaga about the Red Sox right now, and they have 60 games left, something like that. They have been so lucky this year. Every time they need a bounce to go their way, last night Iglesias hits a little chopper and just barely over the third baseman. Every play has been like that this year.
The way I look at it, I'm really not rooting against them. Years ago, I loved the Yankees and hated the Red Sox. Now I like the Yankees, and I kind of like the Red Sox, because I like Pedroia. I like you.
Well, they have nicer guys. Victorino's, he plays hard. The guy I don't get at all is Buchholz. I don't know if he's going to pitch the rest of the year.
Ron, I told you before he even had that problem. I says he's got to watch out. That shoulder and that back, up in the muscle up near his shoulder.
I know.
The way he throws the ball.
I know. He's probably going to hurt himself trying to avoid hurting himself.
He's doing the same thing that happened to Martinez, Pedro. Remember, he was having those problems, the same area, because they're overthrowing.
And, we'll see. I'm not saying Brandon Workman is going to be an outstanding Major League pitcher. He reminds me of a kind of herky-jerky Kevin Brown. Throws that hard sinker.
He's got a pretty good fastball. He's got a heavy fastball.
Yeah, and like Derek Lowe or something. And he's not, he's around the plate.
I like him.
He seems like he's willing to throw it over the plate. That was good to see last night. Tozawa wasn't nibbling. He was just throwing the ball by people.
No, I like him. They're going to battle with, even though Tampa to me, they're going to eventually lose some games, but that pitching staff's unbelievable. They keep getting pitches.
Tampa, you know how I feel about Tampa. I still think Tampa will win the division, and it's, and even a team like Oakland is a lot better than people think they are.
And Baltimore is good.
Yeah, so I think the Yankees probably are not going anywhere this year. We'll
they don't
see.
have enough hitting.
And Detroit is always scary because they get guys who can really hit.
The Yankees have a good pitching staff. They have Robinson and Rivera, in the bullpen, and their pitching staff's good, but they just don't have. When you have Teixeira out of the lineup, Granderson, who I'm not crazy about, he's out of the lineup. Jeter, 300 hitter, 290 hitter.
Right, and there's more Patriot news. There's been a grievance filed with the Patriots to get rid of the medical staff, Dr. Thomas Gill. Now, I don't know anything about Thomas Gill at all, and I don't know what the background information is that, whether it has anything to do with Gronkowski or anybody else. But there's an official grievance filed. They want a new team physician. And it's not a job that I would ever want to be as a team physician, because are you working for the team or are you working for the player? So you're kind of a double agent. You want the players to be able to play if they can. On the other hand, you don't want them to be hurting themselves by playing more. The old distinction between playing hurt and playing injured. Like, everybody's hurt.
Well, look at Belichick with Ted Johnson, when he had him play with concussion. He had him he wanted to wear the opposite shirt. He had him wear a shirt, the contact shirt.
Yeah, I'm sure by the end of training camp, every single player is not 100%. And you just can't, the physical beating that those players take is just unimaginable.
How about one of my favorite athletes of all time, Phil Mickelson?
All right, Mickelson had a 5-under par 66 to win the British Open, which I think was his 5th major championship. And he's on the commercials for psoriatic arthritis. He's overcome a lot, and I know you love him. And he's a terrific player. He's steadied his game down, makes more conservative plays. He used to kind of go for everything.
Well, he's a fun player to watch. The shots he makes, no one else can make the shots he makes. He's in the rough. They say there's no way he can get it on the green, and he blasts it out, he hooks it. He's got all these different shots that he works on. But he's a real good guy. He's a great family man. 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. They were all there. That must have been a great vacation, because he won the Scottish Open the week before. He wanted to get ready for the links courses So he won that. Then his family, during the British Open, a couple of days, they went to Spain. So they made it a 2-week vacation, kind of. But he said it was two of the best weeks of his life. Of course, he wins two big tournaments.
And fortunately, he did well enough that he'll be able to pay for the vacation.
Made about $2.5 million. Well, how's that? You're going on vacation, you make $2.5 million. But that was great to see. I mean, it was that back 9 after he bogeyed the 10th hole. But those last 8 holes, he was unbelievable.
I guess the other sports news, which is kind of it's not really sports, but it is in a way, was the terrorist bomber on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. You know, and then you just sort of wonder what people are thinking about. I mean, obviously, to an extent, it's just we're going to do something controversial.
Well, you know what they're thinking about.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of publicity.
They want to sell the magazines. They're going down the tubes.
Well, yeah, they sell magazines so people can put them on dartboards, I guess.
But, I mean, they're down 30% from last year, from a few years ago. And, you know, they wanted to make a strike, and I guess, I mean, this was terrible what they did. But how'd they get the picture? From the state trooper?
Well, how are the Celtics going to be able to get down to maximum number of rosters, and who's going to get cut or
Humphries
traded?
Has got to go. The other guy, what's his name, Bogans? Bogans, I think he'll go.
I'm wondering if Brandon Bass will go, just because it didn't seem like his greeting for Stevens was very enthusiastic.
Plus, he doesn't fit this team right now with Stevens. He's going to want to play, you know, up-tempo, you know, young coach. You know, I like what they're doing, though. I mean, you talk about rebuilding. I mean, it's what Ainge has done. It's been perfect. Then they have that guy from Spain they just signed.
Right. They have tons of draft choices, 9 first-round choices in the next 5 years. They've got, you know, I think Rondo's biggest thing is not style of play or not running this play or running that play. He wants to be the man, and I think Stevens is okay with that. Says, yeah, you can be the man. And
yeah, but I think he's going to eventually get traded, Rondo.
Maybe.
If this whole thing goes the way it should go, he should get traded.
And then Green, I don't think Green needs to be the man. I think he wants to be productive. He knows he's going to get chances to score. That's for sure.
He should want to be the man, though.
I know. Sullinger, I think he seemed really enthusiastic that Stevens is the coach. Obviously, Olenek is enthusiastic. So the young guys, this is what they want.
Iverson?
I like Iverson because he's a big banger.
You talk about setting a pick. He'll set a pick better than Perkins.
No, and they need guys that, you know, right now, my biggest concern is who's playing interior defense. Sullinger's undersized. Olenek is not very physical.
Iverson, hopefully he'll make the team.
And Faveriani, the new guy who's from Spain, he's more of an offensive player than a defensive player. So how are they going to do it? I don't know. You know, but in the NBA, if you can show up and play hard, half the teams aren't showing up and playing hard.
No, I like this. I like where they are right now. I mean, they couldn't be any better. I mean, when you talk about it, I mean, I'm just happy with the way everything's gone. I'm happy that Pierce and Garnett are playing with Brooklyn. They have a shot to win it because I think some people don't realize how good they can be if things go right because they have a talented team.
Well, they have Darren Williams
and Lopez and Johnson, and then they have some good bench players. I mean, if they have one player who can play someone like, you know, James, that type of player, I mean, you're not going to shut down James.
Oh, and Pearson and Garnett shouldn't have to be playing 35 minutes a game.
No. But I'm just happy with the way everything has gone. Rivers is out in L.A. You know, he's happy out there. They had Stevens, a good young coach, probably the best young coach in the country. You know, 6-year contract. They've got all those draft picks. You know, they have Olenek, who I like, and I like going to the games to watch these younger players. I'll probably get another 12-game package now.
I think Olenek's really a steal. You know, I think he's going to be a very solid player. I wouldn't be surprised if he scores 15, 16 points a game, 7 rebounds,
but you know,
3 assists.
Right, we said it last show, Ron. He'll fit into any team. If he'd be real good on a real good team, he'll be good on a poor team, which you don't want to see. You don't want to see him be good and the team not be successful. That's what could happen in the next couple of years, you know. But he's the type of player, like Ainge said, he's not going to be the leader of the team, but he'll fit in with any team. And that's what all you want. You want players like that.
Well, it's been fun. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.